Hi, and welcome to RecoverED, a podcast from the Magdalen House, a recovery community for alcoholism. We're a 501c3 nonprofit in Dallas, Texas, lovingly known by many as Maggie's. Every first and third Wednesday, we drop a new episode from one of our 3 podcast series. In RecoverED, we share education for the community on alcoholism, our programs, and resources for alcoholics and their loved ones. In each episode, you will get to know more about the disease of alcoholism and the solution. I'm your host, Laura Wilson, a recovered alcoholic and the communications manager here at Maggie's. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for listening. Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of RecoverED. There have been many legends about non-alcoholics working upstairs at the Magdalen House, and I'm here to tell you today that it's not just lore. I do have one in my chair. We have our Chief Development Officer, Susan Overman. So Susan, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
She's real, folks. She is real.
I am indeed a real person, and I am a non-alcoholic.
So Susan, what exactly is the purpose of a development team at the Magdalen House?
That's a great question. The development team is basically in charge of raising revenue to keep the Magdalen House open. That's what we do. We do it in a lot of different ways. I mean, we deal directly with donors. We deal with foundations, asking them to fund our mission. We deal with the communications team, developing what is our brand, putting it out, talking to the community members of the Magdalen House. We are truly in charge of keeping the doors open. That's a very simplistic way to say it, but that's what the development team does.
Right, because we are privately funded, correct?
100%, and as I understand it, we always will be.
Yes.
There's such a difference in relying on ourselves and the people who have a heart for our mission than being beholden to someone else, to government funding. There's lots of talk about government funding and federal funding right now, but because we are privately funded, and that truly means that we rely on the generosity of other people to keep our doors open. They have a heart for our mission. And ours is not a standard mission. It's not the kind of nonprofit that a lot of people think of. Like alcoholism is a different beast. But because we are privately funded, the government doesn't tell us what kind of client we can accept. They don't tell us what programs we have to have. They're not involved in our curriculum. That is ours and ours alone. And so that's a very important distinction.
So you are not an alcoholic. So how exactly did you decide to start working for the Magdalen House?
I am not an alcoholic, but I know and love many people who are. And I think that's true writ large of society. There's just everyone knows and loves an alcoholic is my best assumption. I have family members who are alcoholic. I have loved ones, friends of friends, like the whole bit. And it's interesting because I have learned so much in this job. I will admit to not completely understanding the disease model. Alcoholism has a persona, like people have an idea of what they think an alcoholic is or looks like or how they act. And this job has absolutely educated me, most specifically on the disease model and the allergy and the truest sense of an adverse reaction. My husband laughs because we'll be talking at work and, something will come up and he'll say something that is maybe not correct and I'll correct him, and it's interesting to me. I used to feel very self-conscious, especially sitting in a room upstairs with people who are in recovery. And it seems strange for me to talk about recovery because I'm not in recovery. And so I have just learned so much about this disease from this job.
Does that help drive what you do?
It absolutely does. I have been ill-prepared for the emotional involvement that I have for the people that I work with, for the clients that we serve. I didn't know that I cared this much about it. But being here at the Magdalen House, you can't not care about it. It's unbelievable. It has been a very emotional experience for me. The day we moved into the men's house, to see those men get out of the bus and walk in the front door of that house, and the gratitude and their lives that are changing so dramatically in the first 14 days, I became so emotional. Like everyone was hugging me because it just was I wasn't prepared for it.
Right. You get to see your hard work paying off.
Well, and yes, and it's less about the hard work that we do, but just the effect that it has. I mean, it's my privilege and my pleasure to do it. And when I started, I think I thought it was just going to be a job. And now it's this job that fills me up. And that sounds maybe a little selfish, but I'm receiving so much from it. But it makes it feel good to do good for, I said in my first, when I first started at the Magdalen House, you'd fill out your little employee, get to know the employee kind of thing. And I believe I said something about, I see that good work does good things, or something like that. And everyone at the Magdalen House does such good work, and it is doing such good things.
Right.
It really is.
Do you remember the first time when you started working here that you could see that, we were really making an impact in people's lives?
Absolutely. I was downstairs in the house, and there was a young woman in the house, and I knew her, but I hadn't seen her in years. And to see that young woman now, who is thriving, and I think would credit it all to the Magdalen House, it was just this very personal moment of, I can see from someone that I personally know what we're doing is working. And I've had friends, I've known about the Magdalen House for years. I mean, I have friends who've been through the Magdalen House. But that was just a moment where I thought, wow, this place it's unprecedented, it's unduplicated, it's a really, really special place.
Yes, I love that. I know exactly who you were talking about as well. And she is absolutely thriving and is such a role model in this community as well. As a team, we've coined that phrase that free is expensive. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So you look at the two houses that we have, and they're beautiful houses, and we're housing we can house up to 32 people at a time. Well, if you stop and think about that, if you have 4 people in your family or 6 or 8 people in your family, it's expensive to run a household. And we're running 2, and we're running it for 32 people at a time, potentially. So you've got to think that there's 3 meals a day, there's bills to pay, there's sheets and bedding and towels and, all the things that it takes to run a household. So that's just kind of the baseline cost. Well, then we have salaries, and a lot of people don't like to hear that we raise money to pay salaries, but that's exactly what we're raising money. I mean, we have the people on staff here. We are so blessed that most of our curriculum is implemented by volunteers. And that's another thing that makes the Magdalen House extremely different and extremely effective. But if you're thinking that there's 32 people in the house, they're big houses, you've got to heat them, you've got to cool them, you've got to pay for the people to implement the curriculum. So recovery is priceless. You cannot put a dollar sign to that. You absolutely cannot. I understand that. But free is expensive. It's expensive to run these places. And we're happy to do it. And the fact that a barrier to recovery is removed is fundamental to everything that we do. Right. And that's powerful. But there has to be a realism attached to, you come here, you stay for 14 days, you come back for next step. There's a room to meet in. The room is air conditioned. It's heated. It's just a real fact that right. it costs money to do this.
Right.
We don't begrudge it, and we're just thrilled.
Right.
And it's fundamental to what we do. But
I think there's that common misconception that, when we're getting donations, that these donations are simply paying for the 14 days. And really, recovery is priceless because it creates this ripple effect, right? Because alcoholism is the root cause for most societal ills, right? It's, the baseline for domestic violence, for homelessness, legal problems, medical problems, all of them. But when you said recovery is priceless, your return on investment is, I always say, it's truly someone's life. It's everything, right? It's I get to show up. I'm a graduate of our First Step program back in 2019, and what I got out of it was, you can't put a price on it. It's invaluable, right? I'm a better employee. I am a better friend. I'm a better daughter. I have self-confidence, which I didn't have. And you truly cannot put a price on that.
You can't.
Right.
You absolutely can't. And you touched on it, but it's an important, just from a less emotional perspective, you've touched on it. We are saving the taxpayers of Dallas thousands of dollars per person. We really are, because if you are not in a jail, if you're not in an emergency room, if you're not in a courtroom, those are dollars that can be spent on the people who are in those places, and we are not contributing to that problem.
Right.
The Magdalen House is helping alleviate the burden on those systems. When we write grant requests, and we apply to any foundation we can get in front of, and we've been very successful because we have such a powerful story to tell. And it's an interesting thing to try and put our story on paper. Right. Because that's how we have to do it. You send in an application and you hope that they like it, and then they send it back. But it's such an easy story to tell that you can just say, here are some success stories. And most of these podcasts, you get to talk to someone in recovery and they get to tell you their story, and it's always emotional and it's always impactful. We take those individual stories and we put them on paper and we send them out into the world, whether that's to a foundation or an individual donor or whoever may be a potential funder for us. And I read them back. We write them a lot, so you kind of are in the moment, and you don't really get to stop and appreciate what you're talking about. Right. So then when you sit back and you read it, and you think, these are real people. This is someone's life that we have changed and potentially saved. And it really is. It's a great story to tell, and it's an easy story to tell. I will say, alcoholism, we've talked about this before. It's not your standard nonprofit. It's not puppies. Right. And that, I don't mean that to be flippant. It just is, it's a difficult story to tell sometimes, but it's such a powerful arc, like from this desperation to recovery. And it's a great story to tell. And once people understand what we're doing, or if we can get people to come to the Magdalen House, donors, foundations, individuals, whomever, if they see this place and they see the work that goes on here, the light just goes off.
Right.
Goes on.
Goes on. Same thing. Yeah. And I mean, you don't even have to physically come to the Magdalen House. I mean, we do have our social media pages, and we do have a lot of short form reels of graduates of the program. Like you said, we've had many guests on this podcast. This podcast has been going on for years, and you can hear people's stories. And it's just, I think typically, like you said, it's not your typical nonprofit, because most people have negative feelings and negative experiences around alcoholism. Mm-hmm. I know I did a lot of damage, or they even have the idea that the alcoholic is, a man under a bridge. Right. And it's not. It can be your neighbor's alcoholism, does not care about your skin color, the amount of money in your bank account, where you live. Alcoholism, I always say, is the great equalizer. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is an equal opportunity disease.
It really is. And it's just that. It's a disease, right? Sure. There's no shame in it. I want to go back to when you talked about these individual donors. When someone makes a donation to the Magdalen House, whether it's $5 or, $5,000, where does that money actually go?
So if it's $5 or $5,000, that money goes directly towards keeping the doors open. And we have an amazing partnership with Trader Joe's. But we still have to supplement that. I mean, it truly is just the upkeep of a home. And this is your home for the 14 days that you live here, technically. But then through Next Step and through community, this is the home that you come to at the Magdalen House. It's your home away from home eventually.
Yes.
But for 14 days, it is your home. And so it just goes to the upkeep of all of that. And when we apply to foundations and things, we can apply specifically for First Step or for Next Step or for comprehensive services. We can apply for what's considered a capital expense, which means basically a brick and mortar expense. So when we were building and remodeling Moser, we applied to foundations, and they gave us money specifically to go towards that house. That happened when we moved into this house as well. And that's a capital campaign, which we can get in the weeds on. But that's kind of where the money goes.
Yeah. When someone gives, from your perspective, whether it's the first-time donor or someone who has supported us for years, what does that relationship mean to the organization or to you personally?
It means that they respect what we're doing and that they trust us to be good stewards of their money. And it can, like we said before, it can be $5, it can be $5,000. We've had $50,000 gifts before from foundations and all that. It's a belief in what we're doing. It's a trust that we are the right people to do it. We are taking people at their most vulnerable, or we're accepting and welcoming them at their most vulnerable. And that donation says to me that they trust us, they believe in us, and that we're doing the right work. And it's interesting because a $50,000 gift is obviously amazing. But a year or so ago, there was someone who had just gotten out of the house, and they gave $3. And that $3 meant more to our team and to the Magdalen House as a whole than $300,000. Mm-hmm. I mean, if that's what they have to give, it's such a testament, and it's such a generous and I can't even think of the word I'm looking for. It just means the world. That gift says thank you, and it says I'm so grateful, and it says I believe in what you're doing. And there's no better endorsement to me than someone who's been through our program and who gives to us.
Right. I know exactly what you're talking about with that $3, and that was during our largest fundraising campaign, our end-of-year campaign. And yeah, it does, because, I give away what was so freely given to me. Someone gave their hard-earned money so that I had a safe place to come when I was, at my lowest, at my most vulnerable.
Right.
And, we said this earlier in the podcast. I mean, the return of investment, it's so invaluable. Right. It is, the Magdalen House is responsible for everything in my life right now. I mean, literally everything in my life. And you can't put a price on that. Recovery is priceless.
I will jump in and agree with you and say that I'm so grateful to the Magdalen House because now you do work here, mm-hmm. and we work together, and you're fantastic at your job.
Thank you.
And you get to be fantastic at your job because you came through the Magdalen House, and you got to come through the Magdalen House because someone gave of their money and time for you to be able to do that.
Right.
So it's, we talk about it, it's kind of this self-feeding cycle where you get here, you get healthy, you volunteer, you contribute, and it's just this wonderful circle. And then the analogy of if you throw the rock into the water, there's all these ripple effects, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you would never, I don't think, have determined that when you came here on the first day that you were ultimately going to be the communications and development manager.
Oh, no, I was only passing through. I wasn't even
right.
trying to get sober. So that's the irony of all of this.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, I'm loving this because you were such an example, and there's hundreds of them. And
thousands.
So many people who work upstairs. So many people who work upstairs or who are in this community obviously came through the Magdalen House. And it's just this big boulder that's gone in the water. And now this ripple effect, it just goes bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's amazing to me.
It sounds like that's your personal return of investment that you get to see every day.
Yeah. And again, I didn't get to benefit from the program officially, but I benefit so much from the Magdalen House. It's unbelievable. Like me, just a gal who does this job, who came here, through various avenues of different experiences career-wise, and I get the benefit of the Magdalen House. But that's a personal thing that's important to me.
Right.
But it fills me up. It's really, really special.
But that's beautiful that you can even get, what we as alcoholics get out of the Magdalen House. Like, it's magical to you, and you're not even an alcoholic.
Right. And it's, Lisa's so funny because I know she talks in meetings about there are people upstairs, who are not in recovery, and they're working on your behalf, meaning speaking to the clients. And that's true, but I get so much out of it as well. And I know that the other people on staff who are not in recovery feel very much the same.
Yes. And if you ever get a resentment at work, you can go home and drink about it.
A glass of wine here and there.
Yes. Let's talk about the big campaign that is coming up. For people who have never heard of North Texas Giving Day, what is it, and why is this such a meaningful opportunity for us?
Okay. North Texas Giving Day is directed by the Communities Foundation of Texas. That probably doesn't mean a lot to anybody, but it's a big foundation here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're all over the state of Texas. And it's this massive day of giving for the city of Dallas-Fort Worth area. And there are thousands of nonprofits that participate. North Texas Giving Day is a bit of a misnomer because it kind of has become North Texas Giving Few Weeks.
Right.
But there's early giving, which is critically important because that's a time where you can go ahead and give early. And it sets us up so we know how much money we're trying to make, and we set a goal every year. North Texas Giving Day is second only to our end-of-year campaign. So there are two main times in a calendar year where we raise the most money in a short amount of time. We're consistently raising money throughout the year. You know, we have monthly donors, we have special events, we have campaigns directed at Give Now for this purpose. But North Texas Giving Day and our end-of-year campaign are our two biggest ones. North Texas Giving Day is coming up. It is in September. Early giving starts August 27th. So it is a day or a few weeks that we put our message out there. We ask the community specifically to be very involved, to share about the Magdalen House, to ask their friends and family to donate. And we're not asking you to donate thousands and thousands of dollars. We're saying whatever amount you can spare, whether it is $3, which we talked about earlier, which means the world, if it's $30. If you get 10 people to give $30. It's amazing. We talked about the ripple effect. It's amazing the ripple effect that just sharing and asking a few friends to donate can have. So North Texas Giving Day is this period of time whereby we're trying to raise $100,000. I know that sounds like a ton of money, but if you just get, 300 people to participate, we can make that happen. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You will not be able to drive around the city without seeing signs about it. If you turn on the radio, you will hear things about it. It's an important day, and it's just such an easy day, an easy way to say the Magdalen House matters to me, and I can give $5, $10, whatever it is. Don't go to Starbucks that day. It's such a tired analogy, but that's the easiest way to understand.
Right. Well, and especially because Starbucks has gotten so expensive.
Starbucks has gotten, you know what? $7.50 for a for I paid the other
That's ridiculous.
Day. That's absurd. I'm embarrassed by myself.
Yeah, that's $7.50 you could have given to the Magdalen House.
That's exactly right.
And it's, it really is a fun day. And I think this year we're setting it up to be extremely fun. We're going to have a friendly competition of community versus staff.
Yes.
I know in the past, I'd never really heard of North Texas Giving Day until I was involved with the Magdalen House. And over the last few years on my social media pages, I have gone live for, just a minute to 3 minutes or whatever, right. Talking about what the Magdalen House does. And especially for the people who knew me and my drinking. Like, I was very public about my drinking. So, I'm trying to be very public about my recovery because it's, you can physically see what you're investing in,
right,
so to speak. And, it's so interesting because even on the last few years when I've gone live, I've had a few people like, I graduated high school. I'm going to sell myself out here almost 20 years ago. And I had people from high school that I hadn't talked to like, oh my gosh, this is such a great cause. Like, right. Absolutely, I'll go donate. I've even had people, during that time say, hey, I'm having a really hard time with my family member. Like, can I ask you questions or can I help you? So
absolutely.
It's a multi-purpose avenue. Yes, we're trying to fundraise for the Magdalen House, but also it is a huge, huge, huge awareness.
It absolutely is. It's one of those things where it truly is just an entree into a discussion.
Yes.
And that discussion can help possibly that one person, that person's loved one, that person's friend, that person's employee, that person's coworker. If we can open a conversation about the disease of alcoholism, then that's a win. That's a win all the way across the board. If it results in a donation, okay, that's great. But really what we're trying to do is to save lives. Mm-hmm. And that's the point of it. And if North Texas Giving Day raises money to help us continue to do that, that's great. But really the point of the exercise is to get people talking about it and to help them understand the disease.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. If somebody listening to this has thought about giving but hasn't yet, wondering if their $5 or $10 is really enough to matter, what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that they're not affecting a business. They're affecting a human being. They're affecting someone who needs help. And it's important, and there's not a dollar amount that you can assign to that, because we've said recovery is priceless, and we 100% mean that. If you're considering giving to the Magdalen House, I would encourage you to do it, only because you're affecting an individual, a human being who in that moment needs someone to help them. And that's what we're doing. That's all that we're doing. And by the way, as a fringe benefit, you will feel really good about it. You'll feel good about yourself.
Yes. Is there anything else that you would want anyone to know about the Magdalen House? Anything at all that we have not covered?
I think the thing that impacts me the most about the Magdalen House is it's such a place of rebirth. It's just this unique environment where people can come and they can be together with like circumstanced people, and such good comes from here. And to do the analogy of a before and after, like when people do a makeover or whatever, and they look terrible in their before picture and fabulous in their after picture, and that's not to say that people look terrible when they get here. It's just to say that there's such a difference, and it's just beautiful that it happens, and that it happens for men and women. For so long it was just for women, and the need is so great for men as well. And so to get to see that it's very, it's just very important.
Awesome. Well, Susan, this has been so educational. I really hope that our listeners have gotten something out of it. If you are wanting to connect with Susan, whether you have questions about a donation or maybe there's a foundation that you're aware of that we could apply to, you can email her at susan@magdalenhouse.org. But otherwise, Susan, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I know this isn't your usual podcast topic, so I appreciate you letting me spend the time.
Thanks for listening to RecoverED. If this episode has offered hope, clarity, or comfort to you, please consider making a donation to the Magdalen House. By paying it forward, you help make sure the next alcoholic gets the same chance, completely free. You can give anytime at magdalenhouse.org. We release new episodes every first and third Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Want to learn more or stay connected? Visit magdalenhouse.org or find us on social by searching The Magdalen House. The Magdalen House is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit in Dallas, Texas, and every program we offer is possible because people like you choose to give. Thank you for helping us change and save lives.